That for me, like connecting the dots was kind of the aha moment of there are so many just opposing realities across the globe, and there has to be a better way that we can manage our water. I honestly didn't really have a vision for this to turn into any sort of business or anything that lasted longer than just my middle school science fair. I think as a solo founder, something that I started to believe early on was because I'm a solo founder, I have to do everything by myself in solitude. I think I really didn't understand the value of that community until I actually tried it out and realized.
Welcome to Unfiltered with Distillery Labs. I'm your host, Doug Cruitt, and here with me today, I have Khushi Shah.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well. Welcome to the show. So this is where we have a person-to-person conversation about entrepreneurial journeys, how that impacts life. And we've talked with founders that have been around for a while, maybe had a few exits or more often than not, a lot of failures. And then we also get to talk with founders that are kind of early on their entrepreneurial journey. And you fit both because you've been at your current project for 6 years.
Yeah, 6 to 7 years now. Just crazy to say out loud.
Yes, it is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can quickly dive into kind of the why did you start your startup?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Khushi. I am a Peoria native, but currently living in Boston. I am going to be a senior this year at Northeastern in Boston, which is super exciting. Also a little bit crazy to say out loud as well. But I think outside of my academics, probably the coolest thing I do is I have been the founder and CEO of Drizzle for the past almost 7 years now. So, just in a nutshell, Drizzle is a smart irrigation system and it leverages communication between sensors, a predictive software, and then a new smart controller device to optimize water usage and minimize water and financial wastage for residential, ag, and commercial markets.
Wow. And so this idea came to you on a trip, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes, so I came up with the idea for this actually as a middle school science fair project uh, following a trip to India. I think like at 12, 13, where I saw a lot of people walking to get clean water, struggling with other challenges that all mainly kind of came back to that deeply rooted issue of having access to clean water. And then coming back to the States, being, here from the Midwest, uh, I saw a lot of instances on either just large farms or homes where it was raining and sprinklers were on. So that for me,
Mm.
like connecting the dots was kind of the aha moment of there are so many just opposing realities across the globe, and there has to be a better way that we can manage our water.
So as a middle schooler, how do you go from an idea like that to building a physical product and then building a business plan around that?
Mm.
So what sort of, if you can recall, like the did you have a compass that said go here, then turn this way, like a step-by-step guide, or how did you get through that process in the early stages?
I honestly didn't really have a vision for this to turn into any sort of business or anything that lasted longer than just my middle school science fair. So I think it's pretty cool the way that things unfolded for me. It started just as a research project. So for me, I was really interested, like I said, in that sustainability piece, but also really interested in technology. Didn't know how to code, so I just wanted to pick up a Raspberry Pi and kind of play with it and see how I could make a super simple system that works. From there, the high school that I went to had an entrepreneurship team, and it's like, well, I grew up watching Shark Tank. I think I want to try this out. And I very quickly realized that what I have that has now become Drizzle, this project, could have the potential to turn into an actual product. I'd received a lot of different like recognition and awards at the science fairs that I went to. A lot of people who told me I should patent my idea, but I never really took it seriously until that moment. And then from there, it just was like a domino effect of going to like high school pitch competition to like the next thing. And just pretty much every weekend, I was doing some pitch event. And I realized that this is what really fuels me. So at the end of my junior year of high school, I decided to graduate a year early. And that summer, I happened to go to a pitch contest in Springfield, Illinois, where I met Nate, who at the time was running the G Beta program.
Mhm.
And he approached me, told me about this program happening in Peoria. And I was like, well, this is perfect. I'm in Peoria for a year, looking for things to do during my gap year that would help me actually become that entrepreneur. And I think joining the G Beta program was just really what brought this high school pitch contest vision to life as a company.
Well, that's amazing. And so, you went through G Beta, and then you, went back to what normal people do is you choose to go to higher education and continue learning, but yet you didn't let this die. You had created enough momentum where, and I think like you said, like you felt that this was a passion that you
Yeah.
didn't know was there, but it kind of showed itself to you. So
Mhm.
how are you able to be a full-time student and I'm sure volunteering in other organizations as well, but
Mhm.
then also keep this project alive, this startup?
Yeah. I think one of the best decisions that I made was the university that I decided to go to. I was super strategic about the decision. The program that I'm in, my freshman year, I was studying abroad in London and then I'm in Boston. So I kind of had that global perspective, but also now in a hub where there are a lot of other student
Yes.
founders. And then also, what's really cool about my university is that we have a co op program. So basically, for a semester or two of our 4 year education, we take to work full time in whatever industry we're actually interested in working in post grad. So a lot of students go for that corporate co op, but they also have a startup and a venture co op where you can kind of opt to, have an office space on campus, have those resources, those mentors, and just work full time. So I actually just got done with my co op at the end of June. So that was definitely a huge step in allowing me to kind of pivot my focus to being full time here and there throughout college. But I think the biggest thing is just being around that environment of a lot of other student founders, seeing how they balance their time, different student events, just hearing
Mhm.
from them. And I think at the end of the day, I think of my classes kind of as my 9 to 5, and then my startup and all my other side quests as my like 5 to 9, 10, sometimes 11.
Mm,
But it really excites me. So I think it doesn't really feel like work.
that's great. I think that passion is that fuel that if you don't have it, it's gonna be really hard to
Mhm.
keep whatever you're working on going. And that's so cool and lucky that you chose strategically a university that was going to essentially pay you to work on your startup. Well played. So we talked about pitch
Mhm.
competitions, and I think a lot of founders out there too are trying to figure out like how do I bootstrap this project? And you're some people take out credit cards, some people ask the friends and family to
Mhm.
support. So you could at least get a prototype out, or you can do some marketing or customer discovery or travel or whatever it is. And you've done a lot of pitch competitions. Is that a good way to bootstrap early on? Was that successful for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially all those high school pitch competitions, they're not super high stakes, but I think by the end of it, I'd accumulated like 20, 25 grand, which in hindsight isn't a lot of money when you're manufacturing hardware and
Right.
software and all the things. But it was definitely great to have something to start with and something that felt like my own to actually put into bringing my vision to life. But yeah, I think pitch contests aren't just a great way to, um, actually just raise some funds, but I think the network that
Mhm.
I built from those competitions and just meeting the judges and the audience members was so much more valuable. I mean, like, without going to that pitch contest, I probably wouldn't have
That
never
is
been a
such a
part of G
great
Beta.
point.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's super valuable.
I think that's a great lesson. I'm glad you touched on that because showing up sometimes is
Mhm.
the greatest thing you can do because you never know who you're going to meet, who's going to
Right.
be in that room, and also it's a chance. I think like you know some people like to exercise, and that you're building muscle and resiliency, and it's no different in pitching, getting on stage, telling your story of here's why
Mhm.
I started this, here's what I hope to accomplish, and if you have money, I'd like to take your money.
Yeah.
So the more opportunities you get to do that, I think is really cool. So let's shift into more of the present. So how is Drizzle doing now, and where do you see this going?
Yeah. Drizzle's doing great. I am super excited. There's a lot of cool things coming up. Over the past year, 2 years, I started off kind of in that commercial space. So my very first installation for Drizzle was actually in Peoria downtown, which was super exciting. But from there, I've gone on to kind of scout out a lot of different opportunities. For example, like Dunlap School District, my university, I'm in talks with them right now to get some systems set up there soon,
That's awesome.
hopefully. So just things like that. Commercial has been super exciting. In the I think the final weeks of April, I ended up launching the residential product, which was a long time coming as well. But
Mhm.
I am super excited about that. I think that B2C space is something that I've never really tapped into much before. So I'm learning that it's very different than B2B, but I think I always like learning new things, doing new things. I
Mhm.
can't really sit and just do the same thing every day. So for me, I'm absolutely loving it. And then just on the side, I found that it's very valuable to kind of have a platform where I can kind of build in public. I think my product is one that doesn't really gel with, like, teenagers scrolling on social media, so it's not the product that I post a lot about, but I post a lot about my journey, my lessons that I'm learning along the way, and just having a lot of, like, those social media platforms, authoring books, just reality TV. I've been kind of over the past couple years dabbling in all those different
Mhm.
areas, and I found that the opportunities that you get, the people that you don't expect to meet, but you encounter, I think opportunities like that have translated back into the business, which has definitely been a great learning opportunity for me as well.
That's wonderful. So I'm curious, we're gonna go on 2 ends of the spectrum. So 1, during your entrepreneurial journey, what has been the best and what has been the worst part of it in your opinion?
I think when I started entrepreneurship and just this entire journey, I'd only really seen the 5 of entrepreneurship, which was going to pitch contests and winning money, meeting cool people, interviewing for, like, newspapers, and, I think that's a lot of what you also see, like, on the media, on TV, on Shark Tank, and I love that 5%. That 5% is what fuels me, but I don't think what I understood was that 95%. So, taking that time to actually be a part of an accelerator, be full time on my business multiple times now over the past few years, I think I learned that that 95% is very hard. Just being able to sit in a room, especially as a solo founder, there's
Mhm.
really no one to hold you accountable and to tell you to get things done. So if you don't do them, they just won't get done. So
Right.
I think that part has been pretty hard. To sometimes, hold yourself accountable and actually enjoy that 95%, especially when you're a college student, your friends are out doing
Yeah.
probably more interesting things than you are in that moment. But I think that 5% is super, super rewarding, and that's probably been the best parts of what I get to do. So I think, like you said, there's a spectrum, but I've really learned to like that in between as well.
That's good. So any tips or tricks that maybe to help you as a solo founder to be more accountable, or did you do any time blocking or anything like that that maybe some of our listeners could learn from?
Yeah, I tried all the organizational tips and tricks. And I think as a solo founder, something that I started to believe early on was because I'm a solo founder, I have to do everything by myself in solitude, just locked up in my own room or in a cafe. And what being like in that Boston environment really taught me was even though you're a solo founder and the other founders in your area might not understand exactly what you're building, what you're working on, it's so valuable to have that community. So sometimes some of my founder friends and I will just go to a cafe or just go get dinner and either work on our stuff together in silence, but just, be in each other's presence. Or sometimes we'll do like founder dinners, go out,
Mhm.
just talk about all the things that were wins and things that we want to work on from the past few weeks. Even during my co-op, there were 3 other students who were all building their own ventures, but we would just sit in the same conference room every day together
That's
and just being
awesome.
able to vent to each other, being able to celebrate with each other. I think I really didn't understand the value of that community until I actually tried it out and realized there is so much value, especially being with other student founders. I think being with other older experienced founders is always super helpful, but just seeing other people in the same kind of walk of life as
Yeah.
you don't feel so bad about not being out every night and because you see these other founders that are doing the same thing that you are.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Just it's to be in the trenches with those that are fighting the same battle, the same
Mhm.
fight that you are at that point in time. Yes, it's great to get founders that have maybe crawled out of the
Yeah.
trenches a while ago, but to have those peers next to you, I think is a great idea. So for any founder listening to this, go find your peers, go find your
Mhm.
community. You are not alone unless you choose to be, but I'd advise you to go find some peers to build with. Before we wrap up, some more future looking questions. Just where do you see maybe first Drizzle, but then also just Khushi? Let's look 3 to 5 years out from now. You're getting ready to graduate. Are you going to stay in academics?
Yeah. In terms of Drizzle, I just kind of talking more on that residential product side since that's super new. I want Drizzle to be one of the next big smart home technologies. We see things like the Nest thermostat, Ring doorbell. But there are definitely some gaps in that irrigation market, and I believe that Drizzle has the power to fill those gaps. Definitely being bundled with things like Google Home or just the Amazon, like, home products, I think that could be super cool, um, down the line. Personally, I just love entrepreneurship. I really don't see myself doing a lot of other things. I would definitely, over the next, 5 to 10 years, like to try out also building some new ventures, potentially ventures with other people. I think I wanna
Mhm.
experience what that's like just in different industries. Like I said, I also really like just learning and doing new things all the time, so maybe in the future years, like, I'd love to go back, get an MBA, primarily, like, for the education part, but also I think meeting other like-minded
Right.
people, like, that is just something that really, really excites me now, so I am definitely more of just a go with the flow person, but I think that's kind of the loose ideas that I see for
Yeah.
myself over the next few
Yeah.
years.
Well, good on you to not be so rigid with, this is where I'm gonna be and, you know, there's no flexibility. So good for you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story with our listeners. Thank you for being a part of the Peoria startup ecosystem and community, and then exporting that out to the world, and then also bringing that back here to us. Your global experience is very helpful for the next generation of startup founders here in Central Illinois. How can people follow you? How can when they find you?
Yeah, so I am primarily on LinkedIn, just look up my name, posting a lot about myself and what I'm working on in Drizzle. I've also started content creation, so I'm on Instagram. It's just my first name, last name, and then the letter X, so Khushi Shah X. Love building in public, like I said.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Kushi.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an honor.